Okay, a very good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's mathematical literacy lesson. My name is Mampani Kekana, and remember that this lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saiboni Discovery Center and Pakam Research. So, boys and girls, I hope you had a very wonderful day today. You enjoyed your paper one, and then by so doing, you are excited and you are also looking forward to Monday to write your paper two. So today our focus is going to be on revision for paper two. Remember, for paper two, you need to prepare all the work that you did from the beginning of the year. So remember, the June examination covers all the work that you did from the beginning of the year up until the last day of term two. So it's very, very important that when you go and revise or when you go and study, you study all the work. So as I indicated that today our focus is going to be on the revision for paper two. Now, it's very, very important that you need to know what you're going to write about. So in today's lesson, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify a structure and with topics, work with topics for paper two. You know, boys and girls, it is really surprising that you find that some of you do not even know what they're going to write about in paper two. So today's lesson is about giving you a hint or going through the structure of paper two, so that when you go and study over the weekend, then you study the correct topics. The other thing that is very, very important is to have an idea of how paper two is going to look like, or the topics of paper two. Now remember, like you did today, the paper that you wrote was out of 100. So even Monday's question paper will be out of 100. So the topics that are going to be covered in paper two are as follows. We've got maps and plans and other representation of physical world. Now, boys and girls, this is, you might have seen in paper one and also in paper two. In paper one, you always get an easier topic. The same thing in paper two, you also get an easier topic. I usually don't like to say the topics are very difficult. We just say the topics are very challenging. So in paper two, you've got a challenging topic, but you also have an easier topic, like the topic of maps and plans. The topic of maps and plans is the easier topic in paper two. That is where you should be able to score a lot of marks. For me, if it is possible, you should be able to score all the marks. You should be able to score all the marks that are based on the questions on maps and plans. So now in paper two, you're going to write out of 100. So we estimate that the marks for maps and plans will be about 40. 40 marks will come from maps and plans. And then we also have measurement, of which I know that most of you find it very challenging, but I promise you, boys and girls, if you prepare yourself very well, you will find measurement also very easy. So measurement, we expect the marks for measurement to be about 55 marks. It might be about 50, it might be about 45, 50, 55, or it might be about 60. But the total marks for measurement will be around 55 marks. We're not saying exactly 55 marks, but it's just an estimation. And then, of course, probability. I know that when you prepared yourself for paper one, you also studied probability. So obviously, you don't necessarily have to go and study it again. It's just a matter of revising it. So probability will also be part of paper two, which will count about 5 marks. It might be about 4 marks, it might be about 5 marks, it might be about 6 marks, but the total will be around, the estimated total for probability is 5. Then remember, in today's question paper, you wrote about finance. Okay, you studied finance when you prepared yourself for paper one. So please remember that you are also going to be tested about a little bit of finance in paper 2. Now, the nice thing about it is you studied finance when you prepared yourself for paper 1, so you don't necessarily have to go and study. It's just a matter of revising. But your focus must be on maps, plans, it must be on measurement. Probability and finance, you have already studied. It's just a matter of revising. Yes, again, finance is not going to be a lot, boys and girls. That is why you don't even have to go, you don't have to stress, you don't have to go and study it again, because it's only about 5%. It must also be about 5 marks. The structure of the question paper, boys and girls. The structure of the question paper. Now, in paper 2, the same in paper 1, you must expect about 4 questions, if not 5. Okay, you must expect about 4 questions, if not 5. That will be question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, and then they might also add question 5. Okay, but in some cases, the examiner might be very nice to you and say, okay, because it's a junior examination, let's just give them 4 questions instead of 5 questions. Now, the structure of the question is as follows. We've got question 1. Now, question 1, according to the examination guideline, is going to count about 20 marks. It's going to count about 20 marks. If it's more, it's going to be about 25 marks. If it's less, it's going to be about 15 marks. That is why we say 20 marks plus or minus 5. It might be 21, it might be 22, but it won't be more than 25, and it will also not be less than 15. Boys and girls, as we always say, question 1 consists of the easiest questions that you can come across in the whole question paper. If you're going to find yourself struggling with question 1, then you're going to have a very, very big challenge. So please take note that question 1 consists of the easiest questions across the question paper. If I were you, I would study very hard to ensure that I get question 1 total. You might have seen in paper 1 as well that question 1 consisted of the easiest questions. So this is where you should be able to score all the marks in question 1. The questions will be based on maps and plans and also measurement. Then when you go to question 2 will be based on maps and plans only. Question 2 will be based on maps and plans. And then we've got question 3. Question 3 will consist of measurement only. Question 3 will consist of measurement only. And then, of course, you're going to have question 4. Now, question 4 will again be a combination of maps and plans as well as measurement. Maps and plans as well as measurement. Then if the examiner happens to give you question 5 will also be a combination of measurement as well as maps and plans. So this is how the structure of your question paper is going to look like. You're going to have question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, or maybe also question 5. Okay, then of course, you must expect some questions about probability, which will be about 5%. 5% of 100 marks is about 5 marks. And then you must also expect a little bit of finance, which is going to be about 5%, which is going to be about 5 marks in this case out of 100 marks. Right, now boys and girls, as I indicated, that question 1 consists of the easiest questions that you can come across in the whole question paper, and it's going to have a combination of measurement as well as maps and plans. Now let me take you back and indicate to you what do we mean by the easiest. These are the questions of which you should be able to know their answers right away. You don't even have to think very deep when you get to these questions. If you find yourself not knowing all these concepts today, just be aware that you are making things difficult for yourself. This is some of the concepts that you covered in the lower grades, grade 10 and also in grade 11, and you are still doing them in grade 12. Okay, Now, what do we mean by the easiest? Boys and girls, rounding. Okay, at this moment, you should be able to answer any question that is based on rounding. If they say round off to 1 decimal place, if they say round off to 2 decimal places, if they say round off to 3 decimal places, if they say round off to the nearest 10, or round off to the nearest 100, round off to the nearest 1000, you should be comfortable with such type of questions. It's not something that you have to think deep. So please make sure that you know your rounding very well. And remember that in some cases, the examiner might not specify the rounding. If the examiner doesn't specify the rounding, for instance, if it's the value of money, we know that in Medlit, the value of money should be rounded up to 2 decimal places. If, let's say, you have to calculate the number of people or the number of items, and then in the end, you get your answer in decimal form, it's obvious that if you have to calculate the number of people, or if you have to calculate the number of tables, if you have to calculate the number of classrooms, obviously the answer cannot be in decimal form. In the end, the answer must be rounded off, right? And then we also have a very important ratio. Boys and girls, ratio. If they say write the ratio of the number of girls to the number of boys, the order is very important there. Ratio of the number of girls to the number of boys, very, very important. This is something that you should be able to do it. And then order is very important. If they say boys to girls, then the order is very, very important. In simplified form, you must also be able to write it in simplified form. And then we've got rates. Okay, if you've got rates, if they say the price of chicken, let's say for instance you get into a store, then they say a price of chicken, you have to pay 80 rand per kilogram. Okay, 80 rand per kilogram. Then but now you want to buy 2.5 kilograms. How are you going to calculate that? How are you going to calculate the cost? If they say the petrol cost about 24 rand 40 cents per liter, and then you want to pour in like 25 liters, how much is it going to cost you? Such simple questions. And then, of course, we've got percentages. Boys and girls, you must also be able to calculate the percentages. If they say in a school, we've got 1,500 learners, and then 60% of the learners are girls, you must be able to calculate the number of, if the 60% of learners are girls, you must be able to calculate the number of girls. If a price of bread increases by 6%, calculate the new price. If the price of petrol decreases by 20%, what will be the new price? Those percentages. Then we also have percentage increase. We've got percentage decrease. Boys and girls, this is where you should be able to score the marks. And then, of course, we've got proportion. Now, like for instance, in a proportion, if we say it takes 2 men to build a house, it takes 2 men to build 5 days to build a house. Then if it's 1 man, how long is that 1 man going to take? So there we're talking about proportion as well. You can see these are the basics. These are the type of questions where you don't need to think very deep. And then, of course, conversion between millimeters, centimeters, meters, and kilometers. You have done a lot of activities about converting between millimeters and centimeters, or between centimeters and meters, or between meters and kilometers. In most cases, the examiner will not give you the conversion factors, okay? But you know that at your school level, with your educators indicated to you how to convert between the millimeters and centimeters. Some of you are using the table, the King Henry, and so on. Boys and girls, this is something that you need to know. Then we've got convert between gram and kilogram. The conversion factor might not be given, so you must be able to know that if I convert from a gram to a kilogram, how do I convert? If I convert from gram to kilogram, I'm going to divide by 1,000. But if I convert from kilograms to grams, I multiply by 1,000. Again, converting between milliliters and liters. If I have to convert from liters to milliliters, I multiply by 1,000. But if I convert from milliliters to liters, I divide by 1,000. Such exercises. And then again, we've got measure accurately using appropriate measuring instruments. Okay, you must be able to measure, boys and girls. If, for instance, you've got a ruler, make sure that you've got your own ruler. If you have to measure using a ruler. Make sure that you'll be able to measure accurately. It's very, very important. Then also tape measure. They might give you a picture of a tape measure, and then how do you take the readings, and then they ask you how long is this. They give you a picture, and then they indicate it on an object. They say from this point to this point, this is indicated on a measuring tape. So how much is that? So you must be able to read that. And then again, we've got the kitchen scale. Okay, they might give you a kitchen scale with the readings, and then of course you must be able to interpret the readings as well. The jacks, and then we also have the odometer. The odometer, remember, is the measuring instrument of kilometers. Okay, we'll come to that later on. Then we also have used the BMI. Now, boys and girls, again, remember BMI also in paper 1 and also in paper 2. It's possible that you can get a question about BMI. So with the BMI, you must be able to calculate the unknown. If the formula is given, BMI, it's equals to mass in kilogram over height squared. So it is possible that the examiner might give you the value of the mass and they give you the value of the height. You must be able to substitute and work out the answer. Okay, of course, the definitions, boys and girls, you are working with area, perimeter, and volume and radius every day. The examiner might ask you to define those concepts. Explain the meaning of the terms area, perimeter, volume, and radius. You must be able to explain that. Determine the radius of a circle from a given diameter. You must know that if you are given a diameter and they ask you to calculate the radius, you just take the diameter and divide it by 2. If they give you the radius, they say determine determine the diameter, you take the radius, you multiply it by 2. And then it's very important that wherever you see a unit of centimeter squared, where you see a meter squared, where you see a millimeter squared, you must know that that unit is for an area. And wherever you see a unit of centimeter cubed or cubic centimeter, you must know that that unit is for a volume. Okay, if you see millimeter cubed, you must know that that unit is for a volume. If you see a meter cubed, you must know that that unit is for a volume. Okay, then again, you might be given a watch or a clock. You must be able to interpret the time that will be indicated on a watch or on a clock. And then you must also be able to determine the elapsed time or the duration. If your examination starts at for instance, at 9 o'clock and you finish at 11:30, how long is that? If you leave the school at 1300 hours and then you get home at 15:20, then how long is that? So you must be able to calculate the elapsed time as well. Okay, now that other part was for measurement. Now let us look at the easiest questions that you can get under maps and plans. The easiest questions that you can get under maps and plans. Of course, under maps and plans, you must be able to explain. If they give you, they say the scale is 1:100. What does that mean? The examiner might ask you, explain the meaning. If it's 1:100, what does that mean? It means what you see on the map, it's actually 100 times bigger than what it is in reality. Or 1 unit on the map, okay, it's the same as 100 units in reality. Okay, however way that your teacher has explained that to you. But this is just to refresh your memory, to check with you if you have covered these things. And if you did this with your educator, please be aware that these are the easiest questions that you can get in the question paper. So therefore, you cannot afford to lose the marks. And then again, if you are given the map, you must be able to identify the labels, names of national roads, okay, e.g. N3, or if you are given M1, or if maybe they have indicated M1 on the map, you must be able to identify that. If you are given a regional route, you must be able to identify that. And then, of course, on the map, you must be able to identify the names of the towns on the route between two locations. If they say a teacher or Mr. Dlamini travels from Pretoria to Durban, and then the map is indicated there, you must be able to see the towns that Mr. Dlamini is going to pass, and then you must be able to explain those, or you must be able to name or identify the names of those places. Okay, and then again, we must be able to identify the scale. What type of scale is indicated on the map? Up to so far, you must know the 2 types of scales. We've got the ratio scale or the number scale, and then we also have the bar scale. So you must be able to tell that the type of scale that will be given on the map. And then again, the definitions, we also have definitions. Okay, the floor plan, what do we mean by floor plan? What do we mean by elevation plan? What do we mean by a layout plan? And so on and so on. Boys and girls, you have covered these definitions, but we'll come to definitions later on. But this is something that you don't need to memorize. It's something that you need to know. It's something that you should be able to explain it using your own words. And then again, you must be able to read off values of given dimensions, e.g. length of the wall is 4 meters. If you are given a plan of a house, you must be able to tell which one is the length, or which one is the longer side, which one is the shorter side, which one is the width, or which one is the breadth. So the examiner might ask you, write down the length of the plan as indicated. You must know that the length, the examiner will be referring to the longer side. If they say the breadth, the examiner will be referring to the shorter side, or any shape that is in the form of a rectangle. Okay, still on the maps, the easiest questions. They say use a given scale to determine the actual measurement when given measured values. Use a given scale. So if you have to use a given scale, let's say they say the scale is 1:250. Okay, they say the scale is 1:250. Use a given scale, so it means the scale will be given to determine the actual measurements when given measured. They say the scale is 1:250, but they say the measurement on the map is 5 millimeters or is 10 millimeters. So if it's 10 millimeters on the map, how are you going to calculate the actual distance or the actual length? So it means you take that 5 millimeters or you take that 10 millimeters, you multiply by 250. You make it bigger, so it becomes an actual length. Then after multiplying by 250, the answer will be in millimeters. Then the millimeters, you convert it to meters. Then they say use a given scale in conjunction with measurement on a plan to determine the length. Okay, use a given scale in a conjunction with measurement on a plan to determine the length. Okay, so this one is almost the same as the previous one. We've got 1:250. Okay, then again you do the measurement, and then let's say, for instance, in this case is 1:250. And then they say the actual, what is indicated there is 5 meters. Okay, now 5 meters, it's obviously the actual length. What will be the length on the map? So what you're going to do is you're going to make it smaller. You take 5, you divide it by 250, and then obviously you convert it to millimeters or centimeters. And then again, determine the scale of a map or a plan. How do we determine the scale of a map or a plan? If you determine the scale of a map or a plan, it means, for instance, they say what you see on the map is 5, or let me use a different value, 6 millimeters, but in reality is 30 meters. So if it's 6 millimeters on the map and in reality is 30 meters, what is the scale? Now, obviously, the scale in this case, we're going to say it means 6 millimeters is to 30 meters. So it means this is on the map and this one is the actual. Then you need to simplify this. In order to simplify this, the units must be the same. 6 millimeters and this one is 30 meters. Now, how do you convert from meters to millimeters? How do you convert from meters to millimeters? So obviously you're going to multiply by 1000. So you say this will be 30,000 millimeters. 30,000 millimeters. Then from there you divide by 6. So 6 millimeters, 6 millimeters. And then the millimeters and millimeters cancel out, the millimeters and millimeters cancel out, then you get 1:2. So if you divide, you say 30,000 divided by 6. So if you use your calculator, 30,000 divided by 6, then we get 5,000. So it means the scale is 1:5,000. Okay, so by so doing, you'll be determining the scale of a map. When you determine the scale of a map, it's when the measurement on the map is given and also the actual measurement is given. From there, you'll be able to determine the map. And then when the map is given, you must be able to identify the positions of two locations on a map and use given distance values on the map to determine the traveling distance between the two locations. Okay, so if you are given two positions, you must be able to explain the traveling distance from one point to another, and then you must also be able to estimate the distance from one point to another. Okay, and then the next one is interpret a given set of directions. Okay, we know that about the cardinal points. We've got 8 cardinal points in Mathlit. You must be able to interpret those cardinal points. So you must also be able to describe what the location, the directions lead to. So in this case, they say interpret a given set of directions and describe what location the directions lead to. So you must be able to explain that if I move from south, I'm going north, or I'm going northwest, at which destination am I going to arrive at? Okay, and then still on question 2 about maps and plans, you must be able to provide a set of directions to travel between two locations. You must be able to explain the direction, that is obvious. And then you must be able to use a map in conjunction with a distance chart. Now, a distance chart will come to the example later on. The distance chart, remember, it is that table that indicates the number of kilometers between different places. Like for instance, it will show that the distance between Pretoria and Johannesburg, it's about 60 kilometers, or it's about 55 kilometers. So, or between Johannesburg and Cape Town, it's so many kilometers. So you must be able to use that chart as well. And then again is you must be able to identify the possible route between two locations on a map, and you must also be able to measure the distance between the locations. Again, the usage of a ruler is also very, very important, and use a given scale to estimate the distance between the two locations. I think I've already explained that as well. You must also be able to estimate or determine the traveling time between two or more locations based on estimated traveling speed and unknown or calculated distances. This one, we're talking about the relationship between speed, distance, and time. You must be able to use that triangle of the distance, that triangle of the relationship between speed, distance, and time. And then again, question 2, you must be able to use given keys to identify the number of windows. Remember, if you are given a house plan, okay, if you are given a house plan and then they give you the symbols for the windows, the examiner might ask you how many windows are on the plan. So you look at the symbol, you know that this symbol represents windows, and then you can be able to count. You see how easy it is that. Identify on which plan a particular structure is shown. E.g., the door is shown on the north elevation plan. So you must know the north elevation, the south elevation, the east elevation, and the west elevations. And you must also be able to use the side views against the plan that will be the floor plan that will be indicated there. Right, and then you must also measure dimensions on a plan. It's again about measurement. Right, interpret plans to determine the dimensions of a room in order to establish the amount of carpet. Right, obviously, once you get to a point where you'll be able to calculate the area of, let's say, of a room, and then later on you have to calculate the amount of tiles needed, or maybe if you want to carpet, how much is it going to cost to install the carpet and so on. So you must be able to calculate that as well. And then you must also be able to make connections between plans or showing different views of the same structure. E.g., explain which wall shown on a floor is represented on a particular side view. So it's all about being able to connect the floor plan and the side view. If you see that on the floor plan, this side we've got 2 windows, then these windows, it means they are on this elevation, on the elevation plan, or are on the north elevation, or are on the south elevation. Right, and then question 3 will be about measurement. Okay, so question 3 will be about measurement. What will you be expected to do under question 3? Obviously, boys and girls, you must be able to use the formula of converting temperatures. Convert from degrees Celsius to degree Fahrenheit using the given formula, or vice versa. They might give you the formula and then they give you the temperature. You must be able to substitute and also be able to simplify. And you must also be able to convert between different systems using a conversion factor. Convert from 1 cubic meter to liters. Convert from cubic meters to liters. We know that the fact that 1 cubic meter must actually be equals to 1,000 liters. Okay, so but this one you don't need to worry about it. The examiner will give it to you. The examiner will indicate that 1 cubic meter is equals to 1,000 liters, and then from there you have to calculate the volume, and that volume must be converted to the capacity by using the conversion factor. And then again, you must be able to convert between different systems using given conversion table. In this case, we are talking about converting between imperial and metric units. But the conversion factors for imperial and metric units, boys and girls, you don't need to memorize it. The examiner will give you the conversion factors. So for you, you must be able to use those conversion factors to convert. Okay, I know that most of you are using the cross multiplication, but the conversion factors between imperial and metric units will be given. And then, of course, you must be able to calculate perimeter, area, and volume. Again, you don't have to stress about the formula. The formula will be given. What is important for you is you should be able to choose the correct formula and do the substitution. Okay, now remember, if you have to calculate the perimeter, for instance, the perimeter is P of a rectangle is equal to 2 length plus 2 breadth. Let's say the examiner will give you this formula and say calculate the perimeter. One thing that is important there or here is must make sure that the units are the same. If they say calculate the perimeter in centimeters, or if they say calculate the perimeter in meters, you just have to make sure that if the perimeter must be in meters, therefore the length and the breadth must also be in meters. If one of them is given in a different unit, you must make sure that you convert it to the required unit. Okay, the same thing with the area. So obviously for the area, if it's length times breadth, if you have to multiply the length and the breadth, make sure that the units of the length and the breadth are the same. And then the same thing with volume. If you have to calculate the volume of, let's say for instance, a cylinder, which is pi r squared h, okay, you just have to make sure that the value of the radius and the height are in the same unit. If they say the volume must be in meter cubed, just make sure that the value of the radius and the value of the height are both in meters. If they say the volume must be in meter cubed, you just have to make sure that the radius and the height are in meters. If they say centimeter cubed, make sure that the radius and the height are in centimeters. If they say millimeter cubed, just make sure that the radius and the height are in millimeters. Okay, so again, I know that most of us, we are used to a situation where we are given the radius and the height, and they ask us to calculate the volume. Remember, it is also possible that they can give you the volume, and they give you the height, and they ask you to calculate the radius. Okay, or they can give you the volume, they give you the radius, and then they ask you to calculate the height. So you must be able to change the formula there. So if that is the case, the same thing with area equals to length times breadth. Most of us, we are used to a situation where we are given the length and the breadth, and they ask us to calculate the area. It is also possible that they can give you the area, they can give you the length, and they ask you to calculate the breadth. So very, very important. You must be able to change the formula there. If you are given, remember the same thing with the triangle. We say with the volume, if we've got volume, if you've got a volume, then we divide it into 3 parts. So we've got the volume, it's equals to pi r squared h. Sorry about my handwriting, I don't have enough space there. But this is volume, and then it's over pi r squared h, pi r squared h. If you want to calculate volume, you'll say volume equals to pi r squared h. But if you want to calculate the height, you're not going to say height is equals to, then it's going to be volume over pi r squared. Then you do the substitution. It's just the same as that formula of the relationship between speed, distance, and time. So again, with regard to volume, you can also use the same method. That is for in case the examiner would not ask you to calculate the volume, but the examiner would give you the volume, and then they give you the height, and then they ask you to calculate the radius. And then we also have the record time values at a school sports event and perform calculation with time in order to determine the winning teams. Okay, remember, if for instance you're doing athletics and then you are running, obviously you're not going to finish the race at the same time. They will say one finishes the race in 1 minute 20 seconds, the other one finishes in 1 minute 30 seconds. Then from there you can be able to calculate the difference, and then you can see that this one finished earlier than this one by so many seconds. And then again, interpret time values on a bus timetable. Again, boys and girls, if they give you bus timetable, if they give you train timetable, you must also, if they give you any timetable, you must be able to interpret it, especially with regard to times. If they give you a school timetable, then you must be able to interpret that. If they say the third period starts at 10:30 and then finishes at 11:15, how long is that? Or if it starts at 10:30 and it takes 50 minutes, at what time is it going to finish? So those are just examples. And then again, boys and girls, for question 4 and 5. Remember, we spoke about question 1, and then I said question 1 consists of the easiest questions across the question paper. For me, question 1, if you prepare yourself for question 1, you are actually laying a foundation for the rest of the question paper. You are laying a foundation for the rest of the question paper, because it simply means if you can master those basics, you'll be able to answer the rest of the question. But question 1 is the one that you cannot afford to lose marks. And then we said question 2 will consist of maps and plans only. Question 3 will consist of measurement only. Then when you go to question 4, you are now going to have a combination of measurement as well as maps and plans. That is in question 4. And then question 5 will also consist of combination of measurement as well as maps and plans. So if you look at the structure of the question paper, if you prepare yourself for question 1, you prepare yourself for question 2, you prepare yourself for question 3, automatically you'll be preparing yourself for question 4 as well as question 5. Okay, so it's very, very important, because question 1, question 2, and question 3 covers everything that is supposed to be done in paper 2. Now, we spoke about the measuring instrument. It's very, very important, boys and girls. So typing error there. The measuring instruments, we know about a ruler. You must be able to use a ruler, and then we know what we're using a ruler for. So when we use a ruler, we actually use it to measure very short length. Okay, like for instance, if you have to measure the length of a book, or you want to measure the length of a table, we are actually using a ruler. So the measurements are indicated on the ruler. You must be able to use to interpret those measurements. And then of course the measuring instruments, we've got measuring tape. Again, you must be able, you know that the measuring tape we use it for longer length. Like for instance, if you want to measure the length of the classroom, or you want to measure the breadth of the classroom, then you can use the measuring tape. So these are the measuring instruments that you need to know. Then of course we've got this one, odometer. Most of you obviously you might have seen this in cars. So you see the odometer there, you've got the speedometer, but right there you've got measurements that are indicated in kilometers. Okay, so as the car moves, okay, you see that the kilometers are changing there. So this one we say it's an odometer, but we use it to measure a long distance. For this one, you can be able to tell how long the car traveled, okay, by reading the odometer. Okay, then of course the bathroom scale, if you are given the old type of bathroom scale, you must be able to take the readings there. Okay, and then of course we've got an analog. The analog is the one that indicates the numbers, so obviously you'll be able to read the number there. But if it's an old type of a bathroom scale, you must be able to take the measurement there or be able to take the readings. Okay, then we've got the kitchen scale. Of course, with the kitchen scale, you must also be able to take the readings. And then we've got a kitchen jack. Now, if you've got a kitchen jack, you must also be able to take the readings. If you look at this one, it starts with 50 milliliters, okay, and it goes to 100 milliliters, and it says 150 milliliters. In some cases, the examiner will not give you those readings in between, so you must be able to interpret it, okay. So if it's between, let's say, for instance, between 100 and 200, and we've got two spaces there, so it means each space is 50. So the first line will be 50. So this is 100, this is 150. Okay, and this is 200, this is 250. So it means you've got 50s between any two values. Okay, so for this one, you must be able to take the readings on a kitchen jack as well. Okay, then of course, the thermometer, if you are given the readings, this is a traditional one where you have to take the readings. If you have to take the readings between 40 and 60, again, how many intervals are there? Between this, from 40 to 60, we've got a difference of 20. So if it is a difference of 20, and then we've got two spaces, we've got 2 spaces, it means that longer line there represent, so this is 40, so this one represents 10, okay? So it means between 40 and 60, this one will be 50. But if you had 4 spaces, you would divide by 4. If you had 5 spaces, you would divide by 5. So like for instance, for this one, if it's 40 and 60, and then we know that from 40 to 60 is 20. If we had 5 spaces, we'll say 20 divided by 5. That will give us 4. So we know that each line will represent 4. So in this case, it was going to be 24, 28, and so on and so on. So the readings, you must be able to take the readings as well. So of course, with the analog one, or I mean the digital one, it must be very easy to take the readings there. The readings are clearly indicated in the form of numbers. Okay, now boys and girls, when I indicated the structure of the question paper, I also indicated the terminologies. Okay, very, very important that you need to study the terminologies as well. You cannot be able to calculate perimeter, but you can't give the definition. Let's say, for instance, we look at this one. If the examiner happens to ask you the definition of a perimeter, you must be able to give that answer right away. So in this case, the perimeter is the total distance around a shape. Around a shape. Perimeter is a total distance around a shape, measured in single units, e.g. meters, centimeters, millimeters, etc. When it comes to the definitions, boys and girls, however best way you can give the definition, please give your definition. We are not saying go and memorize these definitions, but however way you understand it better, just write it down. As long as you can indicate a couple of words, let's say about 5 or 6 words in the definitions, I'm sure the examiner will be able to accept that. So of course, we've got perimeter. You must be able to give the definition of a perimeter. We've got the length, which means measurement between 2 points in a straight line. And then we've got mass or weight, is amount of matter in an object or body. And then we've got body mass index, or BMI, is a measurement of person's weight with respect to his or her height. Circumference is a distance around a circle. We've got radius, which is half of a diameter. Okay, we've got diameter, which is a straight line that divides a circle into 2 equal parts. Okay, or some people might say diameter is radius times 2. Okay, so diameter is a straight line that divides a circle into 2 equal parts. And then of course, you'll be working with an area. You must be able to give the definition of an area. Area is the amount of space occupied by a 2-dimensional figure, usually expressed in meter squared, centimeter squared. So it means once you see meter squared or centimeter squared, you must know that that value represents an area. Of course, we've got a surface area. Surface area is the sum of the exposed external areas of a three-dimensional object. Now think about a box. Okay, a box has got 6 faces. Now, if you take the areas of all the 6 faces, that will be the surface area. And then we've got the volume, which is the amount of space occupied by a three-dimensional object, and then usually expressed in centimeter cubed and meter cubed. And then we've got capacity. Most of you are struggling to differentiate between the two, so just make sure that you get it right. Volume is the amount of space occupied by a three-dimensional object, while capacity is the amount of space inside a three-dimensional object. And then the capacity is measured in milliliters, liters, or kiloliters. Okay, in some cases there's a relationship between volume and capacity. That is where in some cases the examiner will expect you to calculate the volume and then after that convert the volume to capacity. Let's say, for instance, you calculate the volume and then you get your volume in meter cubed. So your answer will be in meter cubed. And the examiner will say, right, if your volume is in meter cube, convert it to capacity. So they will give you the conversion factor. They will indicate that 1 meter cubed is equals to 1,000 liters. 1 meter cubed is equals to 1,000 liters. So you must be able to convert that as well. And then the terms under maps and plans, you must know them. Like, for instance, you must know what a bar scale is. Okay, you must know what a bar scale, because the examiner might ask you to define a bar scale. A bar scale, it's a line or bar that provides a visual indication of distance and size on the map. Then, of course, we've got a number scale. Okay, you might know the number scale, you might know how it looks like, but you must also be able to give the definition. A number scale is a ratio that indicates how much the original picture is reduced or enlarged. Okay, number scale is a ratio that indicates how much the original picture is reduced or enlarged. Of course, we've got elevation map, which indicate the high and lows of land. Elevation map is an indication of the height and terrain of a particular area. We've got elevation plans. This is an indication of the side views of a plan when it is complete. So in other words, if, for instance, they have to build a house, then we want to see how the side views will look like. That will be regarded as, or that will be an elevation plan. And then we've got floor plans, which is a scale drawing that shows the relationship between rooms, space, and physical feature viewed from above. So imagine if a house is complete, how is it going to look like from above when the roof is removed? How is it going to look like from above when the roof is removed? So that will be regarded as, or that will be defined as a floor plans. And then, of course, again, street maps. Okay, what do we mean by street maps? It's a map of a town or city showing the position and names of all streets. We've got the route map, a map showing the main routes the main roads used by buses, train, and other forms of transport in the area. We've got national road. It's a network of roads connecting major cities and provinces. That is how easy you can explain it. We've got the regional road, a network of roads connecting smaller towns. We've got municipal roads, a network of roads connecting a town with neighboring suburbs. So that will be municipal road. Then, very, very important, I'm sure you know this one, boys and girls, the difference between or different types of scales. We've got a number scale and we've got a bar scale. And then you must be able to use both of them. If this one is given 1:200, you don't have to make any measurement. You just know that whatever measurement is given, I'm going to multiply it by 100 to make or to calculate the actual distance. But with this one, the scale is given in the form of a bar. But in order to do the calculations, you'll have to take your ruler and measure this. Okay, but this one, luckily, the picture of a ruler is given. But if the picture was not given, I was going to take my ruler and measure the length of the bar. Then from the length of the bar, like for instance, if I look at this one, if I take my ruler, I indicate this one, it shows 55 millimeters. It shows 55 millimeters. Okay, that is if I use my ruler. But in this case, the measurement is indicated. In this case, it indicates that 5 centimeters is the same as 4 meters in reality. But if the ruler was not indicated, I was going to take my ruler and measure, and then when I measure it, I get 55 millimeters. So I get 55 millimeters. It means I would say 55 millimeters is the same as 4 meters. And then from there, you'll be able to use this to do the calculations. Okay, then with regard to maps, remember these are the possible types of maps that you can get. We've got a sitting plan or layout of a classroom. Think about the layout of your classroom. If one wants to move from the table that is in front next to the door and then move straight to the table that is in the corner, okay, in the far left-hand side corner, So how are you going to move from the table that is close to the door to the table that is far on the left-hand side corner of the classroom? So how are you going to explain the direction? Layout of a buildings or sports field at a school, layout of stores in a shopping center, sitting plans in cinemas and sports stadiums. So these are the possible types of maps that the examiner might give you and ask you questions based on them. Okay, then obviously some of you might have been to the stadium. You know about the sitting plan of a stadium. So this is an example of a sitting plan of a stadium. It shows exactly where certain seats are, because normally if you buy a ticket will show a seat number. Okay, I know that in some sports they are very strict that if your ticket number is number 505, then you have to go and sit at number 505. Just the same as at a cinema, if your ticket is number 78, you have to make sure that you go and sit at number 78. You can't just decide to sit anywhere. And then we've got street maps. Street maps with or without grid. What do we mean by a grid? You see a table here, okay, with blocks. Okay, so this is a block. So you see that in this block we've got there, it's indicated that is block number 1, but actually when we name it, we say it's A1. So this is block number A1, this is block number A2, this is block number A3, this is block number A4. We say those are the grid. Okay, so this is actually a grid. They might ask you, in which grid reference do you find Durban? So now if you check on the map, there is Durban. In which grid reference? Then you see that this is D3. This is D3. So you must be familiarize yourself with the grid references. Okay, then of course we've got maps, national and provincial. Remember we spoke about the national roads and the provincial roads. Okay, so the national roads are denoted by letter N if it's N1, N2, N3, and so on. But the regional roads are indicated or are denoted by capital letter R. And then while the municipal roads are indicated by capital letter M. Okay, the strip chart. Okay, so you must be able to interpret the strip chart. That, for instance, in this case, if it's from Durban to Pretoria, where are you going to read that? Obviously, you have to start from 0 and then you end up at 557. That is from Durban. But if you have to check from Pretoria to Durban, obviously you're going to read it from the other side. You start from 0 to 557. So obviously now, if it's Heidelberg, okay, from Heidelberg to Pretoria, how are you going to find that distance? So obviously it must be the difference of 508 and 557. Or if you read it on the other side, you can say the difference between or from Pretoria to Heidelberg is 49 kilometers. Okay, so it's from 0 to 49 is 49 kilometers. So definitely it must be the same distance from Heidelberg to Pretoria. So you must go and check the strip chart for your paper 2 as well. The examiner might ask you questions based on the strip charts. Okay, the elevation maps. Remember, for the elevation maps, I said those are the high and lows. Okay, if I travel from Pretoria to Johannesburg, it is not a straight route. You will see I'll be going up and down. So it means those are the elevations. It's just an indication that from Pretoria to Johannesburg or from Johannesburg to Pretoria, you have to move up and down. So those are the angles. You have to go up the mountains, down the mountains, and so on and so on. So those are the elevation maps. So the same as this one is just an example of an elevation maps about the Two Oceans Marathon. So if people have to run from one place to another, it's not just a straight, smooth road. Okay, in some cases they have to run up the hill, and in some cases they have to run down the hill. So those will be regarded as the elevation maps. Okay, this is the distance table that I spoke about it earlier, where it shows the distances. Like for instance, this one you must be able to interpret it. It's the distance table, the Beaufort West and Bloemfontein. If you want to know the distance between Beaufort West and Bloemfontein, it's exactly 540 kilometers. But now if you look at in this block, they've indicated a star there. What does that mean? So if you look at this one, it is the distance between Bloemfontein and Bloemfontein. So you can't determine the distance between two places which are the same. So in this case, there won't be any distance. That is why it's not indicated. Then if you want the distance between Cape Town, let's say between Cape Town and Pretoria. So Cape Town and Pretoria, there you're going to have Cape Town and Pretoria. So you see there is 1,502. You can find a distance between any two places that are indicated. If you want Klerksdorp and Cape Town, Klerksdorp and Cape Town is 1,273. Even if you read it from this side, you see Klerksdorp and Cape Town, there is still 1,273. You can't have different values because it is the distance between two the very same places. Okay, general directions, boys and girls, you cannot afford to lose marks if they have to ask for a general direction. We always emphasize, like we saw in the past, that some learners, when they ask for general directions, then they explain how to get there. But when they say general direction, they are actually referring to a compass direction. So this one, you must always be careful, check where north is pointed. If north is pointed in this direction, so it means it's going to change everything. So what are you going to do? You're going to turn your paper, okay, so that the north must face up. Then from there you can be able to complete it. Then we say there must be 4 cardinal points first. So we say never ever smoke weed. Then you've got 4 cardinal points. From the 4 cardinal points, you know that between north and east is northeast. Between south and east, we've got southeast. And between south and west, we've got southwest. And between west and north, we've got northwest. Okay, so very, very important. That is how you're supposed to complete this. When they ask for a general direction, you must be able to complete the compass direction. Okay, then again, the relationship between speed, distance, time. Okay, so you must know that it's always in triangular form. So we say ds. Okay, I know that in some school they just say is dstv with the v facing down. dstv with the v facing down. Okay, just using v to complete the triangle. Okay, so always, sometimes the examiner might try to play you. They will ask you to calculate a speed, but they give you a distance, the formula in this form. But when you look at the formula is actually not for calculating a speed. The formula is for calculating distance. So it means you need to change it. You need to change. But if you know the triangle, if you know your triangle very well, you'll be able to, then you know that if the formula is given in this form, distance equals to speed multiplied by time, then you change it. For speed, it must be distance over time, or the distance divided by time. Okay, if you have to calculate time, then you're going to have distance over speed. If you have to calculate distance, obviously it's going to be speed times time. So as indicated in the other 3 triangles. Okay, so T, if you look at this one, is distance, then it's a line, simply means it's over. Actually, it must be time equals to d over delta s. So distance over speed. And this one is speed equals to distance over time. And the first one obviously is distance equals to speed multiplied by time. So you must be able to use this. So you must just make sure that the formula that is given there is in the correct format. Okay, then of course the conversion between metric and imperial units, you don't need to memorize this. This will be given. Okay, unlike the metric units. With the metric units, where they say convert between centimeters and meters, they might not give you the conversion factor, so you need to know it. But in this case, where you have to convert between an inch and a centimeter, definitely they're going to give you that conversion factor. So you must just know how to use it in order to calculate. The same thing that is for length, that is for weight. If they say 1 pound is equal to 450 grams, these are just the estimated value. They might give you slightly different values. So you must be able to use them. And you must use the very same conversion factors that are given. Okay, the cooking conversions, and then obviously this one will also be given. You must also be able to use them. Temperature conversions, we spoke about it. In this case, if one value of a temperature is given, let's say for instance they give you the temperature in degree Fahrenheit and they say convert it to degree Celsius, it is just a matter of substitution and then simplify. Or they give you the other formula, you must also be able to substitute and simplify. Okay, and then the time format. Okay, we know that the time can be indicated in the form of digital or analog. So you must be able to read the time that is given there. Okay, that is given in the form of digital or in the form of analog. Okay, then the time format. Remember, we've got 12-hour format and 24-hour format. So 12-hour format and 24-hour format. You must know the difference between the 12-hour and the 24-hour format. Converting between units of time, very, very important. The examiner might not give it to you. You must just know that 1 day is equals to 24 hours. Okay, unless if they specify, they say a school day. A school day would not necessarily be 24 hours, but a school day, if it's from 7 until 3, okay? So if it's from 7, then you count the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That will be about 9 hours, okay? Or maybe if it's from 7 up until 2, we say 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That will be about 7 hours, okay? So very important. And then again, we've got hours. We must know that 1 hour is equals to 60 minutes. If you have to convert from hours to minutes, you multiply by 60. But if you have to convert from minutes to hours, you divide by 60. Okay, then we also have a month, which is about 4 weeks. Okay, it's about 4 weeks. Then a month can have 28 days, 29 days, 30 days, and 31 days, depending on which month is that. But if the examiner will have to specify, you need to know. If they say January, it means you need to know that January has got 31 days. If they say November, you must know that November has got 30 days. If they say December, it's something that you should know that December has got 31 days. Okay. If they say February, you must know that February can either have 28 days or 29 days. They will also be specified, whether it's a February for a leap year or for a normal year. Then again, for a century, you must know that a century is 100 years, and then a millennium is actually 1,000 years, which is the same as 10 centuries. Okay, BMI, we spoke about the BMI. You must be able to use the formula for BMI, do the substitution, calculate, and also be able to determine the weight status or the health status. So that is the other thing that you need to know, that, or the other thing that you must remember that you might get in paper 2. Okay, now up to so far, I have covered everything that you need to know. I have actually summarized everything that you need to know for paper 2. Everything that you need to go and prepare for paper 2. Okay, now in this case, it is just the structure of the question paper, a structure of a question paper that I took from different question papers of last year. If you go and look at the structure of those question papers, you will see that question 1 consists of the easiest questions. In paper 2, you've got a combination of maps and plans as well as measurement in question 1. And then if you go and look at question 2, it's only maps and plans. And then if you go and look at question 3, it's only measurement. And if you go and look at question 4, you've got the combination of the two. If you have question 5 in that question paper, it will also have a combination of measurement as well as maps and plans. But remember, in between, okay, in between, you'll have a little bit of finance, you'll also have a little bit of probability. So you must check that. Now look at this question. And these questions were taken from question 1. Now just see how easy these questions are. So this one is below is a swimming pool with its dimensions and 2 clocks showing the best times to win. Clock C shows Joe's time that he swims on a Saturday afternoon. Use the information alongside to answer the questions that follow. Convert the height of the pool to meters. Now, where is the height? The height is given there. It's 2000 millimeters. Now we must convert from millimeter to meters. So if it's 2000 millimeters, this is something that you must know. How do you convert from millimeters to meters? Indicated in the structure of the question paper that you need to know how to convert between meters and millimeters, and that is in question 1. So how do you convert this? It means we must divide by 1000. See how easy it is. It's something that you know. 2000 divided by 1000, and this will change to 2 meters. Very, very easy. If you look at the same question, the question taken from the very same information. This one says the volume of the pool can be calculated using the following formula. We know that the formula for calculating the volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height. State which value from the pool's dimensions represent the width. Now, these are the dimensions. We know that from the dimensions already, this one we were told that is the height, and then this one is the longer side, so therefore is the length. So obviously the width will be the shorter side. So for this one, you just write it down. It's just 25 meters. You don't even have to do the calculations. It's easy. It will not even take you longer than a minute. Then you are done. Very, very easy. Then we've got this one was still taken from question 1. Okay, in the very same question, they say name the time format used to display the best times of the day to swim by clock B. Okay, now name the time format. So the time format that is indicated there, it's 24 hours. Okay, the time format that is indicated there, it's obviously 24 hours. Didn't I indicate it in the examination structure? And everything that you need to remember, it's indicated there. But now if you look at this question, it's just how easy it is. Okay, so you don't even have to think too much, or you don't have to think deeply with to answer this question. Look at this question again. It was also taken from question 1. As I said, question 1 will consist of the easiest questions. Write down in words the time Joe starts to swim on a Saturday afternoon. Okay, so if you look at this, so you see clock C, Joe's swimming time. So if you look at this, then we know that in a clock, obviously, if 2 needles are indicated, or if 2 hands are indicated, we know that the shorter one indicates hours and the long one indicates the minutes. Okay, so if you look at the long one, it's on 45, and this one is just before 6. So if you have to write this one, you will say 15 minutes before 6. Okay, it's 15 minutes before 6. Actually, everything must be in weights. Sorry, because they say everything must be in weights, but 15 minutes. 15 minutes before 6. Okay, so it's 15 minutes before 6. Everything must be in weight. So we don't want to see numbers there. Or one can say it's 5:45. All right, or one can say it's 5:45. So can you see how easy it is? And then this was taken from the very same question paper. So now you can see that the first part was actually measurement. And the second part in question 1 is now maps and plans. It's a combination. But if you look at the type of questions that are indicated, the type of questions are the easiest questions. Like this one, the map below shows the location of the Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site. Use the map above. It's actually supposed to be alongside. In which province is the Cradle of Humankind mainly situated? Okay, so if you look at the map, there you've got the map, and then you can see that it is the gray part there that indicates that is Gauteng. Okay, so this big part was actually taken from the smaller part. So for this one, you just say it's Gauteng. You don't even have to think deeply about it. So it's Gauteng. Okay, then the next question, again taken from question 1, it's just the continuation, but this is maps and plans. They say use the map above to answer the questions that follow. Write down the caves at the Cradle of Humankind as shown on the map. So you have to look for the cave. Okay, when I check for the cave, I see the Sterkfontein. It's Sterkfontein. You don't even have to think hard. It's just Sterkfontein. Okay, easy as that. Then we've got the next question. It says use the map above to answer the questions that follow. Name the town situated in Mpumalanga. Now, if you look at Mpumalanga, there is Mpumalanga. Then the town that is indicated there, I can only see Delmas. Write it down. Tell Delmas, and you get your 2 marks. Okay, still on the very same one. It says measure in millimeters the length of the map from Maropeng Visitor Center to the center of Johannesburg. Then you see you need a ruler, very important, your ruler and your calculator, very important in your examination. So if you take your ruler and you measure, if I take mine, then I measure between Maropeng Visitor Center and Johannesburg, I get about 23 millimeters. So it's 23 millimeters. What is important here is look at the measurement. Just make sure that your ruler has got, the edges of your ruler are in millimeters and centimeters. So this is 23 millimeters. Okay, now this is a typical exam question. This one was taken from question 3. It was question 3. Okay, now my advice to you boys and girls, it's once you master the basics, if you go and look everything that I covered under question 1, you'll be able to answer any question, question 2 or question 3. But what I know is maps and plans is the easiest. If you can answer any question under maps and plans, then I'm sure you'll be able to pass the question paper. So for this one, I went to question 3. Question 3 is what is measurement. But I know that measurement is a little bit challenging as well. So please master the basics, and then after that, go and focus at measurement. Okay, go and focus at the measurement, because I'm 100% sure that all of you will be able to answer any question under maps and plans. If you are still not sure about maps and plans, go and study it as well. Okay, and then for the maps and plans, there you are given a context or a scenario. Netball is a popular sport in almost all schools in the Eastern Cape. It is also an international sport, and South Africa will be hosting the Netball World Cup tournament in July 2023. Below is a netball court with dimensions. The center of the circle has got a diameter of 0.9 meters. Determine the perimeter of the netball court in meters. Determine the perimeter of the netball court in meters. So if you look at the perimeter, in most cases, if it's a rectangle, you would not necessarily need a formula. Because this one, it means you have to add the four sides. The perimeter will be from this point, go around until you get back to the same point. How long is that? Okay, so obviously for this is 10.167. If you say 10.167 plus 10.167 plus 10.167. So first thing, the length. The length is 10.167 multiplied by 3. It gives me 30.501. 30.501. And this is in meters. Then what is the length? What is the width? Remember, the length is the longer side. Now the shorter side is the width. Is given as the breadth is 15.25. 15.25 meters. Then how do you calculate the perimeter? The perimeter is you have to add the four sides. You can say perimeter is equals to 2 times 30.501 plus 2 times 15.25. Okay, then if I say 2 times 30.5, I get 61.002. 61.002, then plus. If I take 15.25 and then I multiply by 2, I get 30.5. Then from there I can add 30.5 plus 61.001. Then I get 91.501. 91.501. So this is my answer. Okay. For this one, remember the examiner doesn't specify the rounding, so chances are the examiner is not interested in the rounding. Okay. So, and then again, the context does not force you to round off to any decimal places. So 91.501. The other thing is you are not supposed to round off until you get to the final answer. If, like, for instance, is 61.002, some of you might say, but 61.002 is just the same as 61. Or maybe 30.5 is just the same as 31. You don't round off until you get to the final answer. Once the final answer is 91.501, then you can round it off. If you want to round it off to one decimal place, the answer will be 91.5. If you want to round it off to the nearest whole number, then you say it's 92. Okay, but you must not round off until you get to the final answer. Okay, so the next question, based on the very same information, they say calculate the radius of the center circle in centimeters if its diameter is 0.9. So remember, the diameter is given as 0.9, so the radius will be 0.9 divided by 2. So if you say 0.9 divided by 2, then you get 0.45. So 0.45. Then that is meters. Okay, now you can see how easy this is. Now remember what I indicated from the beginning, boys and girls. Question 1 will consist of the easiest questions. But remember, some of those easiest questions would not necessarily all of them be in question 1. But what we know about is in question 1 is the easiest questions. But some of those questions, you might still find them in question 2. Some of those easiest questions, you might still find them in question 2. You might still find them in question 3. You might still find them in question 4 or question 5. Okay, so it's very, very important. Once you can answer question 1, I promise you, you'll be able to answer question 2, question 3, question 4, or question 5. So it's very, very important. Unfortunately, we do not have enough time. We would not be able to go through everything, but please go and prepare yourself for paper 2. The basics are very, very important. Like I indicated, it's like you are building a house, and then the basics are a foundation. If you don't get your foundation right, then the rest of the house is not going to be right. So in other words, you are not going to have a proper structure of the house. So it's very, very important that you go and study all those concepts that you think are easy. Make sure that you go and study them, and make sure that you get them right for your examination paper. So let me take this opportunity and say thank you very much for watching this lesson. Make sure that you go and prepare yourself very well, and then I wish you all the best in paper 2. See you next time. Goodbye.